another edition of T Watches a Scary Movie. My name is T, and of course, we're talking scary movies. Or today, we're in fact talking some scary TV because we are talking episode 1 of season 2 of Chucky. That's right. The killer doll is back for his second season on the small screen. The story is ongoing. And folks, if you remember, right off the jump here, there are going to be spoilers. I know we have a 10-year rule for movies, but I just want to let you know right off the back here, we are absolutely going to have spoilers talking the TV show. It's unavoidable because we got to talk about a lot of these events. I'm excited to talk about a lot of these events. So yeah, heads up, please do not watch this if you've not watched the episode yet. But the episode is available on YouTube right now in full for you to watch. Or of course, if you have USA streaming service, you can check that out as well too. So let's dive right in. At the end of season 1, a lot went down. A lot went down there to where Chucky basically instituted a massacre in Hackensack at their local movie theater during a screening of Frankenstein, where a number of people were killed, and including most of the parents and adults in Hackensack. Of our lead characters of Jake, Devin, and Lexi, realistically, the only person who was left alive was Lexi's mother at that point. And at the end of the end of the episode as well too, we found that Chucky had hatched this plan to spread his soul amongst a number of other Chucky dolls, basically an army, to where he's going to live on forever and just terrorize the entire country while getting revenge on all of his enemies. But Tiffany, in grand fashion, in the body of Jennifer Tilly, decides that she's done with Chucky, she's had enough, and decides to turn on Chucky. And season 1 was left off with the presumed death of Kyle, with Andy in jeopardy. Andy, who had hijacked the truck full of Chucky dolls, ended up getting ambushed by a Tiffany doll because apparently Tiffany has learned the same voodoo spell as Chucky has to split her soul up as well, and has hijacked Andy in his truck that contains all the Chucky dolls. And of course, at that point, somebody was watching over Jake, Devin, and Lexi while they were visiting Junior's grave. Junior, who was killed by Chucky as well too. And Tiffany has absconded with Nika Pierce at this point, who has cut off Nika's appendages because Nika has seemingly is going in and out of control with Chucky in her body and doesn't want to risk the fact that Chucky now wants to kill her. So we pick up season 2 right from the end of the cliffhanger with Andy and the Chucky dolls, and we find out that the rest of the Chucky dolls that Chucky has split his soul into don't seemingly have the knowledge of like more recent events. So they only seemingly get a part of his soul up to a certain point, because we find out that they do recognize Andy after a minute or two, but they have no idea that Tiffany has betrayed Chucky, and therefore no issues with Andy's killing of the Tiffany doll. But the beginning of season 2 immediately goes into cliffhanger mode there, where Andy regains control of the truck, kills the Tiffany doll, and drives the truck off the bluffs in Hackensack to his apparent death and the apparent death of the majority of these Chucky dolls as well too. Will Andy return? We don't know. We definitely hope so, because I don't think it's very definitive that Andy or Kyle are dead at that point, and I think that they're going to show up later on in the season. It makes sense because, again, season 1 we focused so much on Jake and Devin and eventually Lexi as well too. And then when Andy and Kyle started to show up, it felt like a great family reunion for sure. But I understand it that we're trying to put the focus on our 3 younger leads. And that's likely the same idea here with season 2 as well, is that we want to focus on our younger leads and get our legacy characters back at a certain point, which still gives me hope for Detective Mike Norris and of course Karen Barclay as well too. Who knows, maybe De Silva or Tyler will show up as well too. There's a lot of homages to the earlier films in this season 2 premiere. So then we skip forward 6 months later to where Jake and Devin are both living with foster families. Jake has moved on to Salem, New Jersey. Devin seems to still be staying in Hackensack along with Lexi, who is staying with her mother and her younger sister Carolyn. And it seems that the murders committed by Chucky in season 1 have all been blamed on Junior Wheeler. So There's not a lot of faith in the idea that Chucky is actually alive and back and everything is, everything's all mystical and spooky. And I enjoy that because the whole problem here is that none of this works if everybody is under the impression that Chucky is real, that like the doll itself is going around killing people. And yes, I know. In the actual Bible, in the mythology itself, Jennifer Tilly has starred in some Chucky movies, so Charles Lee Ray is definitely a real thing, but the whole Chucky thing is still kind of considered to be an urban legend, regardless of the fact of, what Andy has told people, what Karen and Mike have told people as well. It's still considered to be this massive urban legend. But I get that the story has to go back to the status quo, because if it's not, it makes it very easy for our kid characters to not really be in that much danger, because again, all they have to do is stay away from a killer doll, and they're probably okay. So I'm okay with resetting it back to the status quo for this because, number one, the fact that Chucky is chasing kids is just, that's the high point there. There's a reason why, no shade to the later Chucky Child's Play entries, but there's a reason why the first 3 Child Play movies work so well, and that's because for a large part, Chucky is hunting down Andy, or he's hunting Andy and his friends down, and it goes a step further because at least in something like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, it's a serial killer. It's a physical, real serial killer. And people can see that. People know Michael Myers is real. People know Jason Voorhees is real, whether they shrug it off or not. And Freddy Krueger was a real person as well, too, in the show or in those movies. With Chucky, nobody believes that a killer doll is actually going around and killing people, and especially if it's coming from the mouth of a kid, who's going to believe that even more? So we see that Jake, Devin, and Lexi have all dealt with the aftermath of Chucky's massacre in different ways. Jake has absolutely tried to move on. He's living with his new foster family. He has a younger brother, Gary, who seems to absolutely love him, and Jake loves him too. He's taking care of him, even if there is neglect from their foster parents. Devin, we don't get to see a lot about Devin's interaction with his family. And then Lexi clearly did not take the events of season 1 that well at all. Whether it's the murder of her father, whether it's the fact that, the murder of Junior as well too, whether it's just all the murders in general and the fact that her mom is completely on board with blaming Junior for everything that went down, Lexi is definitely taking it the hardest out of our trio of heroes. And I think that's great because it gives Lexi a lot more to work with, because you got to remember, for the first half of season 1, Lexi was just this bully to Jake and Devin and even Junior at that point. And then by the end of season 1, she's such a sympathetic character. We're on her side. We love this pairing because the 3 of them work together so fucking well. That is the thing that is so awesome, is that it's so weird to think that it's been a year at this point. And when we got that moment with Jake, Lexi, and Devin reuniting, that was such a feel-good moment in this season 2 premiere. And not only that, but the fact that Jake and Devin are still attempting to carry on their relationship, but they do live towns apart. It's not that easy to get back and forth to each other when you're still under 18 and living in a foster situation. And when Jake and Devin finally do reunite and Devin just pulls him to the bed and gives him that kiss, it's another one of those so fucking awesome, because this relationship is so fucking cool. It's so loving, and I'm so happy to see that the two of them are still trying to maintain this relationship with everything that's going on. But not everything is hunky-dory right now. Not everything is okay in New Jersey, because on Halloween night, we find out that both Jake and Devin are getting menacing calls. And as the 2 of them are under the impression that Chucky is dead and gone, they're not aware that any Chucky dolls survived Andy's crash, or perhaps were there other Chucky dolls out there, because again, the series has made it very clear that Chucky is splitting his soul as many times as he possibly can. So regardless of what happened with Andy in the truck, we just don't know how many other instances of Chucky's soul is actually out there. And that's a great, great ripple to have out there, because that means they can show up at any time, and our characters really need to be worried about what can happen. But things start to take a turn for the worse, because after both Jake and Devin are harassed, they find out that somebody who's harassing them has shown up at Lexi's house. And of course, they use Carolyn as the mark to get into Lexi's house. And fearing for the worst, Jake and Devin rush over to Lexi's house to save her, and they find out that, hey, there is no Chucky there, and right now they're trying to determine whether or not it's a prank because Lexi doesn't know to believe whether it's truly over. We find out Lexi has been heavily self-medicating to try to deal with the events of season 1 between weed and pills and, it might not be coke, but, it's close enough at that point there. But Lexi obviously is still just not taking the events of the last 6 to 7 months well in the least bit. And she absolutely loves the fact that Devin and Jake are here, but at the same time, she's not trying to go through this whole experience again. But we find out she might not necessarily have a choice as Chucky then shows up with Gary and a homemade fertilizer bomb enacting part of his plan. We find out that Chucky is absolutely out for revenge on everybody that has screwed him over. And again, what's interesting here, at the beginning of the episode, it was set up that not all of the Chucky dolls have memory of recent events. That they don't know necessarily that Tiffany had screwed them over. But towards the end of this episode, we find out that some of them at least know. At least this one here that was attempting to kill Jake, Lexi, and Devin definitely is aware of Tiffany's involvement because it wants revenge not just on these three, but again on Tiffany as well. And it's looking for revenge on everybody, which again brings us back to the fact that I'm hoping for more legacy characters this year because I love our main cast. I love this younger main cast for sure, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't also interested in seeing more of our legacy characters come back. De Silva, Tyler, the Kincaids, all of them I would love to see come back to see how Chucky gets his revenge, even if it's a quick cameo to where Chucky is killing them off. But I digress. Chucky shows up with Jake's younger foster brother, Gary, and a homemade bomb, letting the kids know that he's coming to enact his revenge, and sets off this bomb, which unfortunately only kills the Chucky doll and Jake's younger brother, Gary. And the three are under police suspicion, obviously, because considering everything that happened back in Hackensack in the prior 7 months, obviously they're not going to turn a blind eye to this. They see them as being the culprits of this heinous crime with Gary being killed. Now, very, very interesting is that there's a setup for Tiffany's heavier involvement in this season because Lexi, her mom, and her younger sister Carolyn are all seeing this therapist who is trying to make sure that that she understands that killer dolls are not a real thing. That Junior is obviously behind this, and she's trying to use a doll of her own, who we absolutely know resembles the same doll that Tiffany Valentine put her soul into, or that Chucky put Tiffany into at the beginning of Bride of Chucky. Now, again, we're not talking like the actual Tiffany model with the hair and the mole and all that stuff. We are talking about the original doll before it was modded out by Chucky to look, or modded out by Tiffany to look more like her. So, as Lexi attacks that doll, because Carolyn takes it home, nothing ends up happening with it, and our characters are obviously getting smarter about this as well, too. You have to run these tests on any doll at this point because you never know. And if Cult of Chucky taught us anything, is that these Chucky dolls are really, 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 really good about masking themselves even then as well. So we have no idea whether Caroline's doll is actually possessed or not, but it seems very clear that Caroline doesn't necessarily think that it's not, because even though she takes the doll home, we find her sleeping in bed with the doll holding a knife because clearly she still has some worries about what could happen. Or is it possible that Tiffany has possessed Caroline? And we're going to learn that a little bit later in the season. Who knows? But things are getting really, really interesting. The episode ends with Jake, Devin, and Lexi sent to the same Catholic school for misbehaved children that Charles Lee Ray went to as a kid and grew up as well. So clearly, something is going on. Is it just coincidence that these three are ending up at the same place that Charles Lee Ray did? Or is there something bigger at work? Is the therapist a part of this scheme? We don't know. But we do know that a doll has already shown up at that school, because after Jake, Lexi, and Devin show up there, there's a delivery and we see a package getting dropped off that is very clearly doll size. So we're going to see We don't know what's going to happen. It's obviously very, very early in the season. It's literally episode 1. But we got to trust Don Mancini and what he has set out for this season. Now, I've already said what my hopes are. I hope we get more legacy characters coming back here. But I would be remiss to say I think that all 3 of our kids are going to make it out alive out of this season, honestly. I feel that we are probably going to lose at least 1, if not 2, of these characters. And what's interesting is that I know Jake is our lead. I know Jake is absolutely our lead, but it kind of makes the most sense that Jake would be the one that gets killed here, because Jake is the one that Chucky probably has the biggest grudge against out of him, Lexi, and Devin. I could actually see Devin making it out this season, and going on to be the one who continues the fight against Chucky in future seasons, but we don't know, folks. We honestly don't know. It's just episode 1, but I'm going to try to keep up with these reviews on it, so make sure you're paying attention for when I have new episodes going up. And, of course, keep on coming back and checking out these reviews, y'all. Hey everybody, I appreciate you checking out this video, whether it was a review, whether it was a new episode, whether it was an unboxing, an interview, or whatever else. I want to remind you can check out my separate reviews also on my YouTube page, and new full episodes go up every Wednesday night on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and on your favorite podcasting platforms at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.